1942, wheat penny. No mint mark, worth $7,000. Imagine this. You're holding what looks like an ordinary, brownish old penny that has been sitting unnoticed in a jar of spare change for decades. You think it's just another copper coin, dull and insignificant. But as you glance closer and spot the date 1942, with no mint mark beneath the year, your heart begins to race. Could it be possible that this simple coin, smaller than a button, could actually be worth more than $7,000? That shocking thought alone is enough to stop any collector, treasure hunter, or casual coin enthusiast in their tracks. Because the truth is, this particular wheat penny is not just old pocket change. It's a hidden time capsule from the World War II era. A coin that carries history, rarity, and market value that can completely change the way you look at pennies forever. The year 1942 was no ordinary year in American history. The world was in the midst of World War II. Soldiers were overseas fighting, industries were shifting to war production, and even everyday materials like copper and steel were redirected for military purposes. Pennies struck during this period tell a story that no textbook can capture, and the 1942 wheat penny without a mint mark is one of those fascinating survivors. Produced in Philadelphia, the absence of a mint mark might look like a flaw or a mistake to beginners, but in reality, it identifies the coin's origin. Unlike Denver or San Francisco mints, the Philadelphia mint traditionally did not place a letter under the date, which is why this coin appears blank in that area. What makes the 1942 wheat penny so valuable today is not just its age, but the demand among collectors who are obsessed with war-era coinage, especially those preserved in exceptional condition. Now, let's create the picture in your mind. The obverse, or front, of the coin still carries Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile, designed by Victor David Brenner, with the word liberty on the left, and the date 1942 on the right. Above Lincoln's head, you'll see the familiar words, "In God We Trust." The reverse side shows the classic two wheat stalks surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum arching above. It may look simple, but the charm of the wheat reverse is exactly what draws collectors in. And when you realize this tiny copper coin was struck more than 80 years ago, during a time when the world was literally at war, it suddenly feels like you're holding a piece of living history in your palm. But here's where things get thrilling. Not every 1942 wheat penny is valuable. The market value of $7,000 is reserved only for coins that are in superb, uncirculated condition, often graded at the highest levels by professional grading services. These coins must show no signs of wear, crisp detail in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks, and original mint luster. The vast majority of 1942 pennies you might come across are worth only a few cents to a couple of dollars because they are heavily circulated. This is where the careful eye of a collector makes all the difference. Spotting that one pristine, well-preserved coin can transform a simple discovery into a life-changing jackpot. So how do you actually check if the 1942 no mint mark wheat penny in your hands is the valuable one? The first step is to examine the condition. Hold the coin under a bright light or even a jeweler's loupe. Look for sharp details. Does Lincoln's cheek and jawline remain sharp without flattening? Can you still see clear lines in his coat and hair? Flip the coin to the reverse. Are the wheat ears fully detailed with each kernel visible instead of worn down? If the coin looks heavily smoothed or the letters appear faded, chances are it's a common circulated piece. But if the coin looks crisp, with glowing reddish or brownish luster, you might be looking at something extraordinary. The second step is to check for errors or variations. Some 1942 wheat pennies are struck slightly off-center, have double die features, where the letters appear doubled, or carry minor striking anomalies. These minting quirks can skyrocket the value even higher than the already staggering $7,000 for rare examples. Many collectors actively hunt these errors, because they tell a story of the minting process itself. Now, let's talk about storage. Because finding a valuable coin means nothing if you don't protect it correctly. Copper coins like the 1942 wheat penny are especially prone to corrosion and discoloration. Touching them with bare hands can leave oils that cause long-term damage. The best way to store this coin is in an acid-free coin flip, a hard plastic holder, or a certified slab from a professional grading company. Always keep it in a cool, dry environment, away from direct sunlight and humidity. Serious collectors even use silica gel packs in their coin boxes to absorb moisture and prevent the green spots, known as verdigris, that ruin copper coins. If you're lucky enough to find a 1942 no mint mark wheat penny worth thousands, treating it with this level of care is non-negotiable. Remember, the condition alone can mean the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth several thousand. Think of the emotional journey here. A coin that once purchased a stick of gum, a newspaper, or a cup of coffee during the 1940s is now capable of paying a month's rent, covering bills, or even being added as a gem in a high-end coin collection. That transformation, from everyday change to rare collectible treasure, is exactly what makes numismatics such a powerful and addictive hobby. Collectors often say that coins are storytellers, and the 1942 wheat penny without a mint mark tells a story louder than most. It's a survivor of an era when families gathered around radios to hear war updates, when industries reshaped America, and when every single piece of metal was precious. Today, this penny is not just about its copper content or face value. It's about the living history it represents, the rarity it carries, and the thrill of possibly holding a $7,000 artifact in your own hands. And here's the most shocking part. Many people out there might already have one of these coins sitting in a jar, completely unaware of its potential. That's why you should always check every wheat penny carefully, never dismiss old change, and understand the secrets hidden within these little copper discs. Because if luck is on your side, a single 1942 no mint mark wheat penny could turn out to be the treasure you never knew you had. Next up, 1945, wheat penny with S mint mark, worth $6,500. Picture this. You're rummaging through a box of forgotten belongings in your grandparents' attic, brushing away the dust, when a small envelope slips out from between brittle pages of an old diary. Inside lies a single copper coin, darkened by time but still glowing with an aura of mystery. You tilt it toward the light, and there it is, the unmistakable date 1945, with a tiny S mint mark beneath the year. In that instant, the atmosphere shifts, because you might not just be holding an ordinary penny at all. You could be staring at a collectible worth as much as $6,500. That shocking realization is enough to send shivers down your spine, because it proves how an object so small, so ordinary at first glance, can secretly carry a fortune within it. The year 1945 was a turning point for the world. World War II was drawing to a close, soldiers were returning home, and America was stepping into a new era of hope and rebuilding. Coins struck in that period were not merely instruments of commerce. They were silent witnesses to a nation in transition. The San Francisco Mint, represented by the tiny S beneath the date, played a major role in producing coinage that kept America's economy running during turbulent times. Every 1945 S wheat penny is like a historical token, stamped at the edge of a war-torn world. Collectors prize these pieces not only for their copper composition, but also for the symbolic story they carry, a story of resilience, of endings and of new beginnings. At first glance, the 1945 S wheat penny looks simple enough. The obverse still features Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, stern yet dignified, with the words, "In God We Trust," arched above his head, liberty to the left, and the year 1945 to the right, marked with that small but crucial S. Flip the coin, and the reverse is decorated with the classic wheat stalks curving along both sides of 1 cent. United States of America, and the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum. It's a design seen millions of times, but when the coin is tied to the year the world celebrated peace after 6 long years of global conflict, the image becomes hauntingly powerful. So what makes this penny worth as much as $6,500? The key is in its rarity and condition. While millions of 1945 S wheat pennies were struck, the number of surviving examples in pristine, uncirculated states is remarkably low. Over the decades, most were used in everyday commerce, passed across counters for groceries, newspapers, and bus fares, losing their original shine and detail. The few that manage to avoid circulation, tucked away in coin rolls or carefully saved by watchful eyes, have become numismatic treasures. High-grade examples with full mint luster, sharp lines, and absolutely no wear are the ones that command jaw-dropping figures at auctions and among private collectors. If you happen to stumble upon one of these coins, the process of evaluating its worth becomes a journey in itself. The first step is to inspect the mint mark. That tiny S below the date is non-negotiable. Without it, the coin cannot be classified as a 1945 S. Next, examine the surface quality. Under a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, look closely at Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat. A valuable example will show crisp detail, where every strand of hair seems distinct and every fold in the clothing remains intact. On the reverse, the wheat stalks should appear fully formed, each line visible, as though the engraver's tool touched it only yesterday. If these details are worn away, the coin's value declines drastically. Beyond condition, there's another fascinating dimension: errors and varieties. The San Francisco Mint in 1945, despite its reputation for quality, still produced a small number of pennies with striking anomalies. Collectors have documented double-die obverses, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes. These quirks transform a rare coin into an even rarer specimen, often boosting its value well beyond the $6,500 threshold. Imagine holding a coin that not only survived 80 years of history, but also carries a unique imperfection born during its very creation. That, to a collector, is priceless. But let's say you've confirmed you possess a 1945 wheat penny in beautiful condition. What next? Preservation becomes your highest priority. Copper coins are delicate, and the oils from your fingertips can permanently stain them. Never hold such a coin directly with bare hands. Instead, handle it by the edges using cotton gloves. Place the penny in a rigid airtight capsule or a certified coin slab if possible. These holders not only shield the coin from moisture and dust, but also preserve its integrity for decades to come. Store the coin in a temperature-controlled environment, avoiding areas like basements or attics where humidity fluctuates wildly. Collectors even go as far as using specialized coin cabinets lined with inert materials to guarantee maximum protection. The importance of proper storage cannot be overstated. Imagine the heartbreak of discovering a coin once valued at thousands, reduced to a fraction of its worth simply because it was carelessly tossed into a tin box or left exposed on a shelf. Collectibles demand respect, and coins like the 1945 wheat penny repay that respect with enduring beauty and financial potential. To understand the gravity of this coin's significance, let's step back into 1945 for a moment. Picture American families huddled around radios as the announcement of victory in Europe spread across the airwaves. Imagine soldiers returning to small towns greeted by parades with pennies like this one jingling in their pockets. Think of the countless hands it may have touched: factory workers, school teachers, war widows, each passing along this copper piece as the country moved from wartime sacrifice to post-war prosperity. Owning a 1945 wheat penny today is like holding a silent witness to those extraordinary times. And that is the true magic of numismatics, the realization that coins are not simply metal discs. They are storytellers. The 1945 wheat penny does more than carry a monetary value. It embodies the end of one of humanity's darkest chapters and the dawn of an optimistic era. To some, it may just be a penny, but to those who know its history and rarity, it is a relic that transcends its small size, an artifact with both emotional and financial weight. Even more shocking is the possibility that you or someone you know might already own this treasure unknowingly. How many people toss old wheat pennies into jars, dismissing them as worthless? How many collections sit untouched in attics, never examined carefully for mint marks or errors? It is this very possibility that excites collectors. The thrill of discovery, the chase for something rare hidden in plain sight. So the next time you come across an old coin, pause. Look closer. Search for the year, check for the mint mark, and imagine the journey that coin has taken. Because if destiny is on your side, you might be holding not just a piece of copper, but a tangible slice of history valued at over $6,500. And that, my friend, is the kind of revelation that can change the way you see every penny forever. Next up, 1949 wheat penny, no mint mark, worth $6,200. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting at a kitchen table, casually emptying your pocket change into a jar when your eyes land on something odd. Among the shiny modern coins, there's a darker reddish-brown piece that looks older, heavier with time. You pull it out, brush away the dust with your thumb, and the date stares back at you, 1949. Beneath that date, you search for a mint mark, but there is nothing, just blank space. At first, it feels like a mistake, but then the realization hits. This is a 1949 wheat penny without a mint mark, a coin so rare in high condition that it can command prices as high as $6,200. That single shocking discovery is enough to make your pulse quicken, because you've just uncovered something that transforms spare change into a hidden treasure. The year 1949 holds a special place in American history. The war was over, soldiers had returned, and the nation was adjusting to a new rhythm of life. Families were moving to suburbs, cars lined up at new highways, and television was entering homes. But in the pockets of everyday Americans, wheat pennies were still circulating, echoing a design that had already become iconic. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally omitted mint marks on its coins, was the birthplace of the no mint mark 1949 wheat penny. Millions were struck, yet time, circulation, and neglect have eroded their numbers. The few examples that have survived in extraordinary conditions stand today as relics of a society, stepping into a hopeful post-war era while still carrying the character of the past. Let's look closely at the design. On the obverse side, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, immortalized by Victor David Brenner's engraving. His portrait radiates a sense of wisdom and resilience, reflecting America's own journey through depression and war. To the left, liberty is firmly pressed, and to the right, the date 1949 rests proudly. The absence of a mint mark below the date is not an error, but rather confirmation that this coin was produced in Philadelphia. Above Lincoln's head, the words, "In God We Trust," arch like a solemn promise. The reverse showcases the wheat ears framing 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum above, symbols of unity at a time when the nation was redefining itself. So how does such a coin reach the market value of $6,200? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and demand. Most 1949 wheat pennies you encounter will be worn down, Lincoln's cheek flat, the wheat stalk smoothed over, the details faint. These circulated examples are common and may be worth only a few cents to $1. But the holy grail lies in those few pieces that were never released into heavy use, those that remained untouched in original rolls or were preserved carefully by watchful collectors. Coins graded in the top mint state levels with fiery red luster or pristine surfaces become dazzling examples that collectors are willing to pay thousands for. What makes the hunt thrilling is that, unlike gold or silver coins locked away in vaults, wheat pennies still show up in everyday life. They hide in coin jars, old dressers, or inherited collections. The shock of discovering a small copper coin worth over $6,000 is part of the magic of numismatics. It's not just about owning metal. It's about uncovering a time capsule that tells stories about who we were and how we lived. But how can you determine whether your 1949 wheat penny is valuable? Start with the condition assessment. Hold the coin under good lighting and look for luster. A valuable specimen will have a bright sheen, reflecting light across its surface like a freshly minted piece, despite being over 70 years old. Check Lincoln's hairline. Are the strands still distinct, or do they blur together? Look at the lettering, especially a pluribus unum. Is it bold and crisp or weak and faded? Flip the coin and inspect the wheat stalks. On high-value coins, every line of grain will be visible, almost sharp enough to feel with your eyes. Next, search for varieties and errors unique to 1949. Some pennies from this year exhibit doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to misalignment in the striking process. Others may have die cracks, raised lines where the die began to split. Still others show repunched dates, where the 9 in 1949 looks slightly overlapped. These errors not only increase the rarity, but also amplify collector interest, pushing the value beyond already high numbers. Now comes the part most beginners overlook: preservation. Since I've already described gloves and airtight slabs in earlier coins, let's talk about another professional method: archival quality coin envelopes made from acid-free paper. Collectors often prefer them because they allow coins to breathe while protecting them from contaminants. These envelopes are labeled carefully with details like date, mint, grade, and provenance. The envelopes are then stored in sturdy boxes away from heat and light. Another advanced technique is the use of desiccant-controlled coin safes. These safes maintain low humidity levels, critical for copper coins that can develop unsightly spots if left in damp environments. By using these methods, you not only preserve the coin's beauty, but also its high market value. When we place the 1949 wheat penny in its historical context, its value feels even more profound. This coin circulated in an America that was building suburbs, producing the first jet airliners, and experiencing a baby boom. It bought sodas at diners, paid for bus fares, and passed through the hands of returning veterans starting new lives. Each coin tells silent stories of a worker collecting wages, a child buying candy, or a family paying for groceries. Today, it serves as a link between that era and ours, a bridge made of copper and history. And yet, the most shocking truth is how many people dismiss these coins without a second thought. To the untrained eye, the 1949 wheat penny looks like nothing more than old pocket change. But to someone who knows its secrets, it transforms into a $6,200 artifact. The contrast between appearance and reality is what makes this coin so electrifying. Numismatics is not just about money, it's about perspective. When you realize that a humble coin can hold value greater than a month's salary, you start to see every penny differently. You begin to respect the weight of history, the artistry of engraving, and the randomness of survival. Each time you check a coin jar or flip through an inherited collection, you step into a treasure hunt where the next find could be extraordinary. So, if you ever stumble upon a 1949 wheat penny without a mint mark, stop and take a closer look. Study its details, search for its errors, and preserve it with care. Because if fortune smiles upon you, that single copper coin could turn into $6,200 and, more importantly, give you the thrill of knowing you've uncovered a relic that embodies both financial worth and timeless history. Next up, 1951 wheat penny, no mint mark, worth $6,000. Picture this. You're helping a relative clean out an old desk drawer that hasn't been touched in decades. Beneath faded letters and forgotten receipts, you find a small pile of pennies. Most look ordinary, darkened by age, but one in particular catches your eye. The date reads 1951, and when you check beneath the numbers, you notice something unusual. There's no mint mark at all. For a split second, you wonder if it's just another worn coin. But then it dawns on you, you might be holding a 1951 wheat penny without a mint mark, a coin whose pristine examples can sell for as much as $6,000. That sudden realization is enough to make anyone's heart race, because it proves that even the humblest coin in a forgotten drawer can be a hidden fortune. The year 1951 was a fascinating time in America. The post-war boom was in full swing, factories were thriving, suburbs were expanding, and families were embracing the optimism of the early 50s. Yet even in this age of prosperity, every penny still mattered. Produced by the Philadelphia Mint, the 1951 wheat penny without a mint mark became a small but significant piece of that era's economy. Millions were struck, but like all coins meant for circulation, most were used, exchanged, and worn down in everyday commerce. Few people at the time thought to save them in untouched condition, which is why those rare surviving specimens in flawless mint state are now considered treasures. Take a closer look at the design, and you'll see why collectors are drawn to it. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces confidently to the right. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust," form a solemn arch. To his left is the bold word, "Liberty," and to the right sits the date 1951, standing crisp and clear. Beneath the date, where you might expect to see a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco, there is only empty space, confirmation that this coin was minted in Philadelphia. The reverse continues with the classic wheat ears, framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum curves gracefully at the top. It's simple, yes, But the familiarity of the wheat design combined with its age makes this coin more than just a cent. It's a connection to another time. But how can a penny from 1951 be worth $6,000? The secret lies in a mix of survival and condition. Most 1951 wheat pennies are extremely common and fetch only a few cents, especially in circulated grades. But the highest levels of preservation tell a different story. Coins that have retained their original luster with no scratches or signs of wear are exceedingly rare. These mint-state examples, especially those graded by professional services at the top end of the scale, command astonishing premiums in today's market. Collectors are willing to pay thousands for the opportunity to own a near-perfect piece of mid-century history. Evaluating your own coin requires patience and a sharp eye. Start by examining the surface shine. Does the coin glow with a bright copper-red hue, or has it dulled into a flat brown color? The redder and shinier the coin, the higher its potential value. Next, inspect the details in Lincoln's portrait. On valuable coins, you'll see fine lines in the hair and beard, a sharply defined coat collar, and a cheek that hasn't been flattened by circulation. Turn to the reverse and study the wheat stalks. Are they full and bold or soft and smoothed out? A $6,000 coin will always display extraordinary sharpness. What makes the hunt even more exciting is the possibility of error varieties. The 1951 no mint mark wheat penny has been found with repunched dates, die cracks, and in rare cases, slight doubling of letters. These minting anomalies are fascinating to collectors because they make each coin unique, like a fingerprint of history. Finding such a variation can elevate an already valuable penny into something truly extraordinary. Now let's talk about preservation, because by now you know condition is everything. Since earlier coins discussed capsules and archival envelopes, here's another method professionals use: coin albums with inert plastic slides. These albums allow you to display the coin securely while keeping it safe from scratches and environmental damage. They're designed specifically for long-term storage, using materials that won't react with the coin's surface. Another advanced technique is to place silica packets inside the storage area to control humidity, preventing the subtle moisture that often leads to copper spotting. Proper organization and documentation, such as recording when and where you found or purchased the coin, also adds provenance, a factor that can influence its desirability to collectors. When you step back and consider the era this penny represents, its true value becomes even clearer. In 1951, America was on the cusp of technological advances. Rock and roll was just around the corner, and a new cultural wave was beginning to take shape. A single wheat penny carried in the pocket of a worker on a factory floor, or spent by a child at a candy store, tells a silent but powerful story about everyday life in a rapidly changing nation. To hold one today is to hold a fragment of that moment in time. What makes the 1951 no mint mark wheat penny particularly captivating is the paradox it embodies. On one hand, it is the most ordinary of objects, something millions once dismissed as trivial. On the other, in the right state of preservation, it transforms into an object of immense worth. This contrast between the common and the exceptional is what makes numismatics so endlessly compelling. Perhaps the most shocking part is that coins like these often sit unnoticed in plain sight. They hide in cigar boxes, jars of change, or inherited collections, waiting for someone with a curious eye to rediscover them. The thought that a $6,000 coin could be resting quietly in your own home, disguised as nothing more than a penny, is what keeps collectors searching, checking, and preserving. So the next time you come across a wheat penny from 1951, don't ignore it. Examine it carefully, test its details, and consider its preservation. Because if luck and condition align, that tiny copper piece could be far more than pocket change. It could be a treasure, a time traveler, and a symbol of American history all at once. Next up, 1953 wheat penny with D. Mint mark, worth $4,000. Picture this. You're counting loose change at the counter of an old thrift shop when suddenly one coin feels different beneath your fingertips. Its surface has a darker glow, its edges a little more worn than the rest. You flip it over casually, expecting nothing unusual, but the date immediately grabs your attention, 1953. Then you notice something small yet powerful, a bold D mint mark tucked just beneath the year. For an instant, you hesitate. Could this really be one of those rare wheat pennies? And then the thought flashes in your mind like lightning, if preserved in the right condition. This unassuming copper coin could be worth as much as $4,000. That shock alone is enough to stop you cold, because it shows how the most ordinary-looking cent can secretly hold the weight of a small fortune. To understand why this penny matters, we need to rewind to 1953. The United States was entering a new phase of its history. The Korean War had just ended. Dwight D. Eisenhower was leading the country, and Americans were adjusting to the optimism of the 1950s. At the Denver Mint, where this coin was produced, vast numbers of pennies were struck to keep the economy running smoothly. The D mint mark beneath the date represents that origin. Yet, despite millions being minted, only a fraction survived in pristine form. And that is where rarity steps in. Out of the sea of worn-down pennies, only a small number of flawless survivors exist. Coins with shimmering copper-red surfaces and razor-sharp detail. Those are the specimens collectors fight over, pushing values into the thousands. The design itself is familiar yet timeless. On the front, Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln gazes with quiet determination, a symbol of resilience carved into every detail. Above him, the phrase, "In God we trust," stretches proudly. To his left, the word "Liberty" stands out in clear capital letters, while the date 1953 sits firmly to the right, stamped with the unmistakable D. Turn the coin and the reverse displays the enduring wheat ears, framing 1 cent and United States of America. Above, the motto E pluribus unum ties the design together. It's simple, yes, but simplicity is part of its charm. It carries both national pride and everyday familiarity. So what pushes this penny into the $4,000 range? It's a combination of grade and scarcity. Most 1953 D wheat pennies passed through thousands of hands, slipped across lunch counters, tossed into piggy banks, rattled inside pockets, until they were worn smooth. These circulated examples today are worth only face value or slightly more. But the extraordinary few that were pulled from circulation early or stored carefully in original rolls remain in almost perfect condition. These mint-state examples gleam with their original copper brilliance, showing not a trace of wear. It is those gems, graded at the highest professional levels, that collectors will pay thousands for. Checking whether your coin belongs to this elite group requires careful examination. Start with the luster. Tilt the coin under a strong light. Does the surface glow like a mirror, bouncing light evenly across both sides? That is the hallmark of a mint-state coin. Next, study Lincoln's features. On valuable specimens, the beard appears textured, the cheek rounded and full, the hair strands sharp as if freshly engraved. Flip to the reverse and inspect the wheat stalks. The kernels should be distinct and the edges crisp. Even the tiniest blur can reduce the value dramatically. But beyond condition, there's another layer of intrigue: error varieties. The 1953 D wheat penny is known for certain minting quirks. Collectors have identified doubled dies where letters or numbers show shadow-like repetition, and repunched mint marks where the D appears slightly overlapped or offset. Some examples reveal misaligned strikes or tiny cracks in the die that left raised lines on the coin's surface. These accidents of production are highly sought after because they transform a regular rarity into a unique collectible. Spotting one of these errors can lift your coin's value beyond the already impressive $4,000 ceiling. Preservation, of course, is critical. By now, you know handling and storage make the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth thousands. Since earlier discussions covered capsules, albums, and envelopes, let's consider another professional method: non-PVC coin tubes lined with inert materials. These tubes allow collectors to store multiple wheat pennies together while keeping them safe from scratches and harmful chemicals. For high-value specimens, some enthusiasts even employ vacuum-sealed storage pouches, which remove oxygen from the environment around the coin, slowing down the natural process of toning or corrosion. Adding a small humidity regulator to your coin safe ensures the delicate copper surface remains stable for decades. This level of care is what separates casual collectors from serious investors. Think for a moment about where a coin like this might have traveled. In 1953, pennies were still a meaningful part of daily life. They bought bubble gum at the corner store, contributed to jukebox plays in diners, and clinked into church offering plates. A Denver minted penny could have crossed countless hands in Colorado or traveled across the country in someone's pocket. Each one carried the weight of ordinary American stories: school children, farmers, factory workers, soldiers back from war, all relying on small coins for everyday transactions. To hold one today in uncirculated brilliance is to hold a silent witness to those lives. And yet, the most striking aspect of this coin is its paradox. On one level, it is utterly ordinary. Tens of millions were struck, and most are now nearly worthless. But when preserved in untouched beauty, it becomes extraordinary, leaping in value to thousands of dollars. This transformation from common to rare is what makes coin collecting so addictive. It's the thrill of finding hidden value in plain sight. The shock of realizing something as small as a penny can rival the worth of a diamond ring. Even now, countless people dismiss wheat pennies without looking twice. They sit in coffee tins, old drawers, or forgotten collections, quietly waiting. Somewhere out there, in a dusty jar or a box in someone's attic, lies a 1953 wheat penny in near-perfect condition, just waiting to be rediscovered. That is the magic of numismatics, the constant possibility of surprise, the chance that the next coin you examine could change everything. So if you ever come across a 1953 wheat penny with that little D below the date, pause. Look at it closely. Protect it properly, because if fate has placed one of those rare, untouched gems in your hands, you could be holding a treasure worth $4,000, and more importantly, a piece of American history too precious to ignore.